Hi friends, this is Carly and I'm back today again with another indie comic review. Today's book is Nature Man by Dan Sehn, that's S-E-H-N. I'll be putting all of his details in the description below. And I'm going to start off the review today by talking about the character of Nature Man and public domain, for those of you who aren't familiar with what public domain means. Then I will introduce the creators of the book and go through my review of the book itself, sharing some panels with you. As always, for transparency's sake, I wanted to let you know that Dan did send me my digital copy of Nature Man for free in exchange for my honest review, which is what I will be giving you today. So let's start off with talking about Nature Man. Nature Man and Nature Boy were characters created in the 1950s, 1956. Nature Boy had 3 issues and Nature Man actually appeared in 1. And it's sort of assumed by some that Nature Man was the future iteration of Nature Boy, although it isn't specifically stated in Nature Man's comic. But both of them were very short-lived characters, and they were presented at a time when people in the industry were really wondering, will a superhero go over? So the reason that this is interesting to note and is worth talking about here is that Nature Man and Nature Boy are what are called public domain characters. And this is something that exists with a lot of Golden Age characters and some Silver Age characters in comic writing. So essentially what public domain means is that after the characters were created, over time, the creator either didn't return to those stories, didn't leave them to anyone, they didn't have maybe necessarily a great deal of value in themselves, so a publisher didn't take up the rights by purchasing them. And so these characters are available as a part of the public domain, which means that anyone is free to reach out, pick up the information that's available on those characters and write about them, or just write under the name of that character and create their own story. So this character, Nature Man, is drawn from the history of the original character, which premiered, in that 1 issue of Nature Boy. However, this is Dan and his team's original take on that story. So if you didn't know about public domain, I think it's really interesting to look into, and it's a really great exercise too for independent writers, new writers, and just creatives in general to kind of have this massive resource that you can write about and publish when you're getting started. So let's get right into Dan's book. Here is the cover. It's called Earth's Guardian Supreme, Nature Man. And I apologize for having to use my phone, but as I said, it was a digital copy and I couldn't really quite print all these very dense pages out, but there we go, you can see him. And I really love this character design. I'm gonna tell you the things that I like about it. It really harkens on the original color design of the original character, the original costume, and it also has some really modern elements that I really appreciate. So the creator of this book, the story was written by Dan Sehn, the art is by Zilson Costa, colors by Guiseppe Pica, and letters by Luiz Diaz. So the artwork in this book, let's start off with that. I always love to start off with the artwork, is very consistent. It's spot on. It's got a really great look, and what's interesting about Nature Boy, I'm trying to get this focused in here. There we go. What's interesting about Nature Boy is that he has power over some natural elements and also the power of love. So these are all things that are talked about in here, and I think the coloring really sort of reflects the natural elements that Nature Man has to work with. The story starts off with Nature Man sort of crawling out of his grave, and it turns out that he was Nature Boy. He died, but the gods who gave him all of his powers kept the spark of life within him, and he's resurrected in modern day, in our modern day world. So I think the colors really sort of reflect the idea of what his powers are. I would say that I did feel, and I'm sure that you could see in the scrolling, that the colors got a little bit monotonous for me. There's a lot of aqua blues, sort of muted golds, and light greens, and those carry over into when he meets the gods. When he gets into the city, those sort of transition into the gold range, which is a part of his costume as well, so it turns a little bit more earthy tones, but the overall tone is very muted and light and only sort of uses a few colors in its palette. And so I think I might have liked something a little bit more vibrant, but the artwork itself, the line work, the movement, the usage of the panels and the space on each page was absolutely perfect. So without giving away what really goes on, Nature Man finds himself in this new world and suddenly facing a new enemy. And I love who the new enemy is, because coming from the 50s into modern times, I assume around now, it is a very different type of enemy to fight. It's something that he wouldn't really know about, and he has only his natural abilities at his aid. I also really love that when Nature Boy comes to, he meets a friend in a young man who thinks he's a homeless person and offers him assistance. And this is a young Hispanic boy whose name is Mateo. Wait, no, not Mateo, I'm sorry. Let's see, actually, I'm sorry, I apologize. Mateo is the friend that he introduces him to. This is Hector. I'm sorry, it's Hector. So he is the little boy who thinks that Nature Man is homeless and goes and picks him up and takes him to get a haircut and befriends him. And I really love that he is sort of ingrained in the culture. He is a part of a Latino community, and you know, the elements of his community are really apparent and have a character in the story, the people that he meets and the community that he's from. And it's just a really interesting sort of contrast to what we know about Nature Man, which is very little that isn't supernatural. So I really love the warm, welcoming environment that he comes into, and I love the idea of a kid sidekick. That is always so much fun, and when it's done right, it can really allow the story to blossom. So overall, I really appreciated the artwork and the writing in this book. The area that I think could use a little bit of work, in my opinion, the things I would like to see in future issues, is development of the concept. Because basically what was done here as far as explaining what Nature Man's powers are and where they come from was taking that source directly from the public domain, which again is 100% okay. But because there is so little information provided on these characters, because they were written about for such a short period of time and so infrequently, I would really like to see a wild creative story taking place. Now, I will say that the villain that they're up against and the cliffhanger that we're left with opens that door for us. So there is plenty of potential for the story to grow and be more creative from here on out. And establishing the world that your character comes from and who they are is a little bit difficult in this situation, considering where Nature Boy actually comes from. So I kind of understand where that choice came from, but I would have just liked to see it expanded a little bit more. Other than that, I really enjoyed the storytelling and the writing. I liked the casual use of sort of lingo in the neighborhood that Hector comes from, and it was really naturally written. The conversation between the characters makes sense. There's a little bit of humor in there, and the action is just drawn really, really well. And by the end of it, I really want to see this fight go down and find out what it's all about. So overall, this was a really impressive read. I really look forward to reading more about this character. And let me tell you the publisher. I'll be sharing all of this in the description as well, but this is from Thunderzone at argocomics.com. So I'll share all the details about where you can buy your issue in the description below. And I'd like to just sort of reference another great public domain character that could be sort of something to sort of look to as a way that somebody took a public domain character and created a really wild and crazy story. This book is Airboy. Airboy is still public domain. This is by Robin, let me see. Let's see the first names, because I know the last names. James Robinson and Greg Hinkle. And this came out a few years ago. It was just a 4-volume set, but they really took it to an extreme. But it's just a sort of interesting way to look at how you can take these classic characters and make really interesting, inventive stories with them. And I really look forward to seeing more of that from the creators of Nature Man. Thank you guys so much for sending me your independent comics. I really love reading them and sharing my thoughts. And I'm happy to review anyone's independent work if you would send it to me at annoyingyouwithfriendship@gmail.com. I will get in touch with you and do your review as soon as I'm possibly able. Thanks again to Dan and friends for sending me this comic, and I look forward to reading more with what you do. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon with another review. Bye, friends.